I mean, David Axelrod, of course, you know, Jake makes the point about conversations people have had with family members, that we've all had with family members. And that's what this may boil down to, conversations with Biden family members. And from all the reporting, it seems that
his world has shrunk, Anderson, to his family and a couple of close advisors. And someone has to recognize the reality of the situation. There was a memo circulating today among the congressional leadership done by a PAC for the Senate and House, PACs for the Senate and House. And in it, it said that 18% of people now say they believe the president is fit to serve. 18%, including just a third of people who voted for him last time. You put that together with the meeting with Katzenberg, which reflects, I think, the reality. The money has dried up. And I said earlier...
There's a report that Jeffrey Katzenberg, a large fundraiser...
Who is his key fundraiser. No one has done more for the president than Katzenberg. He's devoted his life to this project. You know, someone has to say, here is the reality. There is not a path forward. He said in an interview that he would get out if he was told by his advisors that there wasn't a path forward. If his advisors don't tell him that now, they're not doing him a service, and they shouldn't be his advisors.
You know, this is the end game now. He may be able to run out the clock and stay on the ticket, but you got to lead, and we have a big coalition. You have a lot of African-American voters who are still with Joe Biden. They still want him to stick in there. We're used to seeing our leaders stumble. We're used to seeing our leaders be attacked by the media in ways that aren't fair, and we're slow to let go of somebody's hand. So I'm proud that the black grassroots is standing with Joe Biden. But the party's bigger than that. The donors are walking away. The best people in our party, the smartest people in our party are looking at the math and saying the math don't math. And so it's important, I think, that we recognize that this could be, this is the end game. One way or the other, it's the end game. And tonight's very important.
One other thing I want to add, I'm sorry, just one last data point, which is that there was an AP NORC poll today that said 2/3 of Democrats want him to drop out. And that, you know, yes, he's got stronger support among African Americans, but there are a fair number of African Americans thought that too. And it's a reflection of what they see.
Well, and Jeff Stelling makes a great point that tomorrow marks 3 weeks since the debate. And I talked to White House officials. I was at the White House last week. They really thought they were going to hit the ground running coming out of this. He was going to do a lot of public events. He was going to do a bunch of interviews. Well, now he's going to self-isolate for a few days. And every interview and public appearance he's done has not done enough to materially change what you were hearing from Democrats behind closed doors, who do believe that it is up to the Pelosi's and Schumer's and that small group of advisors around him, the Mike Donnellans, the Steve Richettis, to kind of have that conversation. And even they behind the scenes seem to be getting closer to that point.
And so add to that what we heard from J.D. Vance tonight, which is not on Daniel Deal's list because it's true. Right? It is true. We have a big tent in our party. We love this country. We are united to win. The Democrats see this here. This party has rallied around Donald Trump. For all the controversy about Trump in the past, this party is rallied around Donald Trump. So Democrats are looking not just at the polling, but to David's point, and to Jake raised this point. You know, if you make a policy mistake or you did something out there, you can change that. You can apologize. You can change your policy. You can have an event. This is a performance question. It's not just that they're telling the president, you're losing Michigan, you're losing Pennsylvania, you're losing Wisconsin, you're losing Nevada, you're losing Arizona. You're beginning to put New Mexico in play. What? You're beginning to put New Hampshire in play. What? You put Virginia in play? Hello? It's not just that. They're saying the reason is because the American people, to David's point about the poll, and they're showing the data, they do not believe you are up to the job. It's not. That's not something you can change. Yeah, and it's like, at least if you come out of the debate, you knew they were raising that question. To Caitlin's point and Abby's point about the interviews and the performances, if you thought you could change it, you have not succeeded because the numbers are getting worse.
I continue to think that this is more than just a political problem. I mean, if Democrats are saying that he's not fit to serve in January, and we're seeing the rapid deterioration of the president before our very eyes right now, I still think we need to have a conversation about who's running the country today and is he fit to serve for the next few months. I'm just not satisfied that this is only a political campaign problem. To me, the country still has to operate, and he's still supposedly the president.
I would just say quickly, the split screen of Joe Biden walking off that airplane and the imagery from this evening should have Democrats very concerned.
Look, it's pretty remarkable because we saw, obviously, J.D. Vance had his big moment in the sun at the RNC last night, but the reality was all anyone was talking about was the president
Yeah.
of the United States last night, ahead of that anyway. And our Jeff Zeleny had a report that kind of rippled across the landscape, where he said that one advisor says that President Biden seems more receptive to these entreaties for him to leave the race. I'm wondering if you can kind of give us a sense of what the conversation is among Democrats right now. Clearly, Nancy Pelosi in particular, and I was talking to one Democratic member last night who said that she is clearly making her moves behind the scenes, that she rarely loses. What's the next turn of this screw?
Well, look, I think we have to remember, as of right now, President Biden has the delegates to win the nomination. And these are people who ran specifically to be pledged Biden delegates in their home communities. So unless and until there is some movement among those delegates and some chance that when the vote happens, he would not win. Again, I keep saying this, he's got the cards in his hand. And again, members of Congress don't get to vote until the second round of voting. So look, he's negotiating with a pretty strong hand here. I do think the polls matter. I think the other piece, though, that I will tell you that's rippling through the Democrats, number one, I will tell you that most of his people are saying he's not going anywhere. He may have COVID. Guess what? There's a whole new COVID strain that we're all probably going to get at some point this summer or fall. But the other piece is I think people are, I want to say, furious in many corners at the idea that if for some reason President Biden did step down, that it wouldn't be Kamala Harris. The idea, I think a lot of folks don't understand what a revolt there would be in the party if you tried to step over this woman in favor of,
Yeah.
some
So,
of the
I mean, look, I
men
buy
who have
you
less
on the one hand.
experience.
You're trying to say, well, Biden's not going anywhere. But then on the other hand, if he does.
Well,
right?
because that's the conversation people are having. They're saying, even our
But
own
it
Van
shows he
Jones
really
said,
might leave, right?
no, I think it's just people really want him to leave. And they're trying to throw out names of people like, oh, it would be so exciting and we could do this. And the thing that I keep going back to is, okay, great. So let's have a food fight in August and then turn around at the end of August or early September and say, hey, you can trust us to run the country. I don't think people realize. And if it's not Kamala, we're fighting for ballot access in every state. We're fighting, that person has to basically start from the beginning in terms of staff and money in September. So
It's a tough climb for sure. But Reese Gorman, what are you hearing from your sources this morning?
So Democrats are, Biden having COVID is just another example of them kind of being worried. Now he's going to be taken off the campaign trail when they were already skeptical of the fact that he could be the nominee. I was talking to some Democrats earlier this week who were, even before this kind of all played out, they were really scared. And then, these conversations with Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, they don't just leak on accident. They talked to them last week about this, and clearly Biden did not heed their concerns. And so now they're trying to come out in public and force this in a public arena, and because he's not listening to them. And so they are really scared about the prospect of Biden being their nominee from what I'm hearing, and there are grave concerns, especially from more vulnerable Democrats.
Yeah, Stephanie Lai, let's show everybody kind of how President Biden has evolved as well in talking about what would cause him to reevaluate his decision, because he obviously, after the debate, was very dug in, starting out with that interview that he did with George Stephanopoulos. But another thing he said yesterday also piqued the ears of Democrats. Let's watch this.
If the Lord Almighty came down and said, Joe, get out of the race, I'll get out of the race. The Lord Almighty's not coming down. Unless they came back and said, there's no way you can win. Unless I get hit by a train, yeah. If there had some medical condition that emerged, if the doctors came to me and said, you got this problem, that problem.
Some medical condition that emerged. So some people are overreading this as well. COVID could now be the excuse that he uses to do this. But at the same time, it's a change.
It is, and I think you're completely right. And that interview yesterday really did turn the page on what we were seeing from Biden's response earlier when he was very stubborn about not dropping out of the race, not ceding control of the party. And now it seems like he's more open to the idea of, should something happen, Kamala Harris is perfectly capable of taking over the control of the White House. I do think that, some of these conversations that we're hearing from Democrats on the Hill, among senior, top brass Democrats, it seems like the more polling shows that other candidates could beat Donald Trump, the more willing he seems to be